You probably never would have thought that Harrison Ford, the Hollywood actor that we all know and love, would have anything to do with American rhetoric, but he does. In today's world, we draw most of our understanding, or we like to draw most of our understanding of the world around us through media and different media sources. Well, a prime example of this is the Harrison Ford classic Air Force One from 1997. If we look past the special effects and suspenseful soundtrack and Harrison Ford's chiseled jaw, we can draw and see classic American rhetoric being ingrained in our unknowing minds. The particular rhetoric I'm talking about is that of hegemonic masculinity. In the 2007 article from Critical Studies in Media Communication, Anna Fahey outlines the 5 characteristics of hegemonic masculinity, being physical force and control, occupational achievement, familial patriarchy, frontiersmanship, and heterosexuality. Through several different scenes in the film Air Force One, the character of President James Marshall, played by Harrison Ford, supports the ideal form of hegemonic masculinity. Of the 5 aforementioned characteristics, familial patriarchy, heterosexuality, and physical force and control are the 3 that are most showcased in this film. Harrison Ford's films, as usual, showcase his need to save his family. So, firstly, familial patriarchy is a very good characteristic shown by his character, President James Marshall, throughout the film. The scene where it's most prominently shown is the one where he is with his wife and daughter in his personal quarters when he's watching the ball game before the hijacking occurs. It's clear that his family loves him, that he has succeeded as a patriarch, as the head of the household. In a 2011 article titled Patriarchy and Historical Materialism, Colin Fairley says patriarchy is the manifestation and institutionalization of male dominance over women and children and the family. Well, in that particular scene, he doesn't necessarily show his dominance as much as throughout the whole movie. He's always the one overcoming the terrorists while his family is always in a state of helplessness, thus showing his dominance over his wife and child. But in order to have created this family that he is dominant over, he would have to be of a particular sexual orientation. So, secondly, Harrison Ford's character, President James Marshall, proves his heterosexuality with the help of the lovely Wendy Crewson as Marshall's wife, Grace. The one scene in the movie where this is most shown is where him and his wife are alone in his room, getting a little close and intimate. He's a stereotypical heterosexual stud in this scene. He's sipping a brew while he, gets intimate with his wife. In a 2010 article titled The Elephant in the Room, Heterosexuality in Critical Gender and Sexuality Studies, Chris Beasley talks about heterosexual men as always powerful and predatory. Marshall is clearly dominant and predatory in the scene with his wife. He's the one that really instigates the intimacy in that scene, showing his predatory nature and dominance, as we mentioned already. But Marshall exerts power in more places than the bedroom during Air Force One, however. So finally, countless scenes in this movie, obviously it's an action movie, show how President James Marshall drops the idea of peaceful negotiations in favor of physical force and control. He the first and one of the most prominent scenes where he does this is when he chooses to stay on the plane as opposed to taking off in the escape shuttle. A more feminine man would have definitely left and taken care of the crisis from the safety of a boardroom. Another scene is when his hands are tied and he has to use the piece of glass to get himself free and take control of the situation. It's arguably the toughest situation to take control of during the entire film, but he miraculously pulls it off. Once again showing that he is, President James Marshall is an ideal character who reinforces the notion that our president needs to be as masculine as possible. So, to restate, familial patriarchy, heterosexuality, physical force, and control are the three primary characteristics of hegemonic masculinity shown by President James Marshall in the film. Through several scenes in Air Force One, he supports the ideal form of hegemonic masculinity. In light of this info, you should have a new appreciation for Air Force One as not only an entertaining action flick, but also a medium for American rhetoric to be subtly instilled in our minds. This is not a unique case. If you take a closer look at any political film, you should find traces of rhetoric, and you can be an informed citizen who realizes when they are being led to think a certain way.